Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Next Level Infrastructure Monitoring and Load Balancing. So today I'm really excited since I believe there really is something in this for everyone. We seldomly get to do webinars that go this deep across multiple products within our portfolio here, but there's so much about these solutions that really complement each other. We felt like we just, had to put this together. I know we have a bunch of customers that are using both of these solutions in their environment today. And hopefully we have many on the call to see how you can extend the functionality to get more value. So I hope that that comes across today. So as an introduction, I'm Kurt Young. I lead up the technical product marketing team here at Progress for solutions that fall under infrastructure management, which include Chef, Flowmon, and of course LoadMaster and WhatsUp Gold, which is the focus of today's session. We also have Jason Alberino, WhatsUp Gold. He's principal product manager, and he's here to help me out a little bit later during the Q&A at the end. For the agenda, I just want to start off with a really quick overview of licensing of both WhatsUp Gold and LoadMaster and some new packaging that we're offering. I think this is going to help as we are going through the session for new customers and existing customers, since many of you may already have access to the value with your current license, so it may be more of just enabling this functionality in your environment. Then we'll cover application monitoring and insights and how each of those products provide value in that area, application security, network performance monitoring. And another thing that I really wanted to do for this webinar is really pack it with demos. So after each of these sections, we'll go into a demo highlighting some of what each product can bring to that area and how these all get tied together to provide a more holistic view. So one last slide before we get into some of the weeds here. For those who are new to these solutions, we'll just do a quick overview, starting off with Progress WhatsUp Gold, right? It's all about monitoring the infrastructure. It includes your routers, your firewalls, switches, servers, hypervisors, and so on. From simple ping, right, to more advanced monitoring using protocols such as SNMP, SSH, API, WMI, plus additional add-ons for things like log management, configuration management, network traffic analysis, and more. And then we have Progress Kemp LoadMaster, which is our load balancer, or better defined as application delivery controller, since we're doing much more than just simple load balancing. And we'll look at some of the more advanced features today and how they can elevate the availability, the scalability, optimization, and security for the applications being published. This will, of course, include Progress LoadMaster 360, since I can't talk about LoadMaster without bringing up LoadMaster 360. For those who may not be familiar, LoadMaster 360 is our SaaS offering that really elevates the visibility and management of your LoadMaster fleet. Okay, licensing. So starting off with WhatsUp Gold, I know it's a bit of an eye chart, but it is really intended to go into detail of the subscription tiers, but more just to highlight that we have subscriptions, right? And many customers have moved from perpetual to subscription based on the way that these are packaged up and how they match the requirements for that organization. So features I'll be highlighting today are obviously going to fall into one of these tiers. So if you are an existing customer, right, you may already have, again, access to this. LoadMaster, similar subscriptions in addition to perpetual, which once again, depending on what tier, right, you may see some things that you have access to today as well. Further flexibility is available for LoadMaster around pooled subscription licensing. This allows you to control the available bandwidth for the virtual load masters you're deploying. This can be virtual load masters running on premises or in a supported public cloud or both, right? And the management of all of this licensing is done through LoadMaster 360. So you can see from this illustration, right, we see we have a 100 gigabit pool. 75 gigabit is being used by these 48 virtual load masters, ranging from 500 megabits per second to 10 gigabits per second. still with 25 gigabits left in the pool. So if you need another LoadMaster, just spin it up, give it some throughput out of the pool. Don't need it anymore, or want to scale back some of the LoadMasters running, changing a 10 gig to a 1 gig, you can put that 9 gig back into the pool. So once again, having that ability to easily deploy, scale up, scale down, or decommission LoadMasters to put bandwidth back into the pool, it gives you massive control over your LoadMaster fleet. And here's a list of the tiers, which really fit all size organizations, right? Ranging from 2 gigabits per second up to the 500 gigabits per second pools. And you can, of course, upgrade the pool, right? If you're growing and need more throughput. So it's easy to do that. So let's just jump into a quick demo of the pooled licensing in LoadMaster 360. Okay, once logged into LoadMaster 360, we're presented with the default dashboard. And we'll come back here later and navigate around from both an application and LoadMaster standpoint. But if we navigate to infrastructure and license repository, we see our pooled license management. I currently have 50 gigabit pool, and I'm using 21 across these 4 different LoadMasters. I also have a license that I've killed and brought that bandwidth back into the pool since I no longer needed that LoadMaster. If you want to update a license, you can simply select the LoadMaster and choose Relicense. And once that connects to the licensing server, I'm presented with different size licenses to choose from. So I'd like to take this development LoadMaster from a 5 gigabit license down to a 1 and just click Relicense. And it'll go through the process of reassigning a new license to my LoadMaster running in the lab there. So now I only have 17 gigabit in use with 33 remaining. So that's pooled license management in a nutshell. And as I mentioned before, we'll come back to LoadMaster 360 and start looking at other areas around application insights and security. Okay, application monitoring and insights. So we'll look at how each solution approaches this, starting off with WhatsUp Gold. Lots of out-of-the-box monitors to get insights into the uptime and health of the application servers running in the environment, in addition to, all other network components, right? The ability to create custom monitors, right? If you have the need to get deeper insights into certain components, and alerts to keep you updated on any changes to the health of the environment, or even actions you can take when a monitor hits that certain threshold. On the other side, with LoadMaster, with its advanced health checking capabilities to ensure that the application is healthy before sending traffic back to those real servers. Now, there's some configuration that can be done to use the protocols being applied to get better assurance, right, that the application is healthy. You could do a simple TCP port health check or an HTTP, HTTPS health check, but there are some additional parameters you can set to get better validation of the health of the application, assuming that it supports it. With LoadMaster 360 and the extended capabilities provided there, with metrics being kind of gathered along with the dashboards and the widgets available, you're really getting to see some information that's extremely helpful when you need to understand the health and the performance of the application. And same with WhatsUp Gold, right? Receive alerts that give you some rich context to what the issue might be. Now, again, separately, these two solutions provide a ton of insights into the health and performance of the application and the servers that are running the application, and looking at WhatsUp Gold, a lot more than that, right? About the entire infrastructure. But when you start putting this information together from LoadMaster 360, plus the information being gathered by WhatsUp Gold, that overall health and performance really becomes much more clear. So this will be the first scenario, right? We'll be looking at a few things from each of these products, right? So LoadMaster, we're going to just be looking at the scheduling method, how we're distributing traffic across these backend servers in a very smart way, right, to make sure that we're utilizing those resources the best we can. We'll look at some of those advanced health checking parameters to make sure that those applications are in fact healthy before we start sending traffic back to them. And then from Loadmaster 360, right, looking at the visibility on connections that are happening on that application, visibility on the scheduling, right? Is that scheduling that we set on the Loadmaster, is it actually doing what we want it to do? Is it directing traffic to those backend systems effectively? User insights and application timings, right? So we'll look at each of those components within Loadmaster 360 and get to see what that provides based on that application as well. And with What's Up Gold, we'll be looking at active monitors, performance monitors, and alerts to notify the team when issues are happening that might not be seen from Loadmaster and Loadmaster 360. Okay, so here I have a Loadmaster publishing a website running on Microsoft IIS. It has two back-end web servers to provide that availability. Now, if I go into the details of this virtual service, under standard options, you can see I'm doing a least connection scheduling method, right? Meaning that the Loadmaster will identify which real server to send that traffic really based on the number of active connections across the two servers, right? So sending that traffic to the IIS server with the least number of connections to optimize the resources that are available on those systems. If I look under real servers, I want to take notice of the health checking parameters, right? First off, my IIS servers are running several websites under one IP address. So I need to send that HTTP host parameter within the health check, right? Looking at that myapp.tpmk.local. Also, I'm looking at a specific page called health.html. Now, when I'm accessing this page, I'm expecting the word healthy, right, to come back within that 200 reply pattern. Now, for this demo, it's just a static page, right? But if you have an application that needs access to a database or some other system, right? And this page was dynamic in nature, where if it could not access that required component, right, that it would send back a different response than what it would send back if it could access that component, right? That would prevent any connections that are being sent to that real server, if something was broken, right? So it sends back a 200 regardless, but that doesn't necessarily mean the application is healthy. So, take a look at your health checking parameters and the capabilities of the application being published to design the best possible health checking parameters. Okay, so moving on to Loadmaster 360. So I'll take a look at that same application, right? So under applications, I'll select the IIS website. And on the overview, right, we see the application is fully available. There's no unresolved issues. The two IIS servers are being published. They're listed there on the right. The virtual service availability over the last 7 days, right? We had an outage a week ago, but things are looking pretty good since. Then we see some details on the total number of connections for the application for the last 7 days, right? Looks pretty reasonable. We have no traffic over the weekend, right? Traffic other days during the week seems, again, pretty steady, a little ups and downs here and there. We can also look at how the traffic is being distributed across those backend servers using that least connection scheduling method that we looked at before. Now, with my traffic generator, right, that's working in the lab, I'd say that these results look pretty good. Under the health and performance, right, we see some graphs here where, since again I'm using just a few traffic generators, not doing any rate limiting and things like that, so there's not a whole lot of interesting metrics here. But of course, if you had real traffic hitting your application, there'd be much more interesting graphs here to look at. Plus, you have the ability to look back 30 days on these metrics as well. User insights. This is a great feature for troubleshooting client issues accessing the application, right? This is something that you need to enable, right, when you are looking at a potential issue. It runs for about 10 minutes when you enable it and then shuts back off, since it's pretty process intensive. So you don't really want to be running this for any long length of time anyway. But you can see things like top 10 clients hitting the application, the methods being used, the number of requests, the top 10 URL requests. You can also search by a client IP to get more details. Again, if someone is, a certain client is complaining about accessing the application or something, you get some details on what's happening there and in the different pages that they're looking at and the response that they're getting back, whether it's a 200, you can search by, 404s or 500s or whatever you might be looking at for that particular issue. Moving on to application timings. Another great feature to help identify when there's a potential application performance issue with the ability to look back up to 30 days. Looking at the average round trip time on top here between the clients and the Loadmaster, and the Loadmaster in those real servers. Things are looking real good on that front. Beneath that, you can see some more detailed graphs to see if there are perhaps some network performance issues happening, not only with high round trip time, but also around server response time. Now, I'm confident that most, if not all, attendees today have gotten that call stating that the application or the storage or the network is slow, right? And without the right set of tools, your only choice is to really start looking all over the place, right? Trying to find out and determine whether there really is a problem or it's nothing at all, right? Now with Loadmaster 360 application timings, you get some really great insights into these type of issues. Here we see a few spikes around server response time. Right, the spike is coming from this 10.67.18.55 server, and it's happened around 10:30. Another time here, not as high of a spike, around 1 o'clock, and it looks to be ramping up once again. So this is definitely something we want to look at, as you can start seeing the high server response times from this system. Now, beneath that, we can see some bits per second, some retransmission. Again, another area we can look at. We have the spike here, but probably a little bit less concerned about that one at this point. And down here at the bottom, we have a summary of client connections, active connections, peak throughput, top requests. Here I'm just doing gets, but you would see puts and posts as an example. Connections across those backend servers, top clients. This client's a new traffic generator that I spun up. It kind of got away from me a little bit, but seeing something like this in production, definitely something that you should look into. Also, this map here. Now, again, since everything's internal, if this was connections coming from different parts of the world, you'd see some connection points with some information around trip times and things like that as well. But let's go back up. Let's start figuring out what's going on with this system here. So moving on to WhatsUp Gold. Now, we've seen a bunch of interesting metrics, but what we haven't seen yet are how those back-end servers are really behaving from a performance standpoint. Looking back at the Loadmaster health checks that we did, getting those 200 responses back, right? It's a good indication that the application is up, but is it performing at its peak? Those metrics in Loadmaster 360, right, indicating that there's some performance issue from a server response time. Right, but do we really know what's happening on the server itself? Now with WhatsUp Gold, we do. So I've already done a discovery, and I've mapped out my applications with the Loadmasters that are sitting in front of them. And once again, servers are up, but when we click on this PRI IISO2, which is that 10.67.18.55 server, and look at the device information card, we can see all these different monitors, right? And looking at performance, we can see that the CPU is over 90%, right? Which can certainly cause some poor performance experience. Now, clicking into that monitor, we can see that this has happened a few times. And you look at how those kind of line up directly with the graph that we were looking at in Loadmaster 360, right? That 10:30 time frame, 1 o'clock time frame, and now. So going into the properties, we can set alerts to help notify us when type of things are happening on systems to kind of get ahead of these type of problems. When we get those, right, in the short term, we can simply jump back to the Loadmaster, disable the real server to take it out of that rotation to stop any additional traffic from being directed to the system until we resolve the CPU issue. So right here we see our active and performance monitors. Now, when you click into here, you want to make sure you're setting up these thresholds. So number one, you're capturing these events, right? But also that the threshold's not going to trigger every minute, giving you alert fatigue and you start ignoring alerts altogether, right? It's about finding that happy medium for your environment. So between LoadMaster, LoadMaster 360, and WhatsUp Gold, you can start to see these different vantage points around the health and performance of the applications being published. And we actually got quite a bit more to show. Now moving on to application security. So this section is going to primarily focus on LoadMaster and LoadMaster 360. There are several features baked into LoadMaster that provide some security to help protect the applications being published. I'm just going to focus on WAF today. Again, there's a lot of other stuff. We just couldn't fit it all into this webinar. If you are a LoadMaster Enterprise Plus customer, this is included in that tier, which includes defined rules based on OWASP Top 10. You can create custom rules to address application-specific patterns. It could also be adjusted to avoid false positives, which we'll also demonstrate a little bit later. Also included as part of the web application firewall is the ability to block connections to applications either on the list of bad actors that's provided by Progress. You can define your own list of addresses to block, either by subnet or by a single IP address, or and block an entire country. Now, when you take all that, you get the visibility that's needed with LoadMaster 360, right? There's a dedicated dashboard to look at these insights, either from an application by application standpoint or from the LoadMaster as a whole. A bunch of widgets providing all kinds of information that's crucial to understand, what's happening. Plus, we have a rule tuner, right, which is a component that help address those false positives, creating those custom rules to help eliminate as many false positives as possible. And we'll look at that as well. So building on the scenario, right, we'll add the WAF to help protect the application and enhance WAF on LoadMaster 360 to get those insights and create those custom rules for those false positives. Okay, here we're on a different LoadMaster where I have a site published that I'm protecting with Web Application Firewall. Clicking into the details of this virtual service and opening up the WAF settings, clearly you see I've enabled it. We have audit mode off. Now this can be used when you're troubleshooting the WAF, and it just generates a bunch of logs, which is great for troubleshooting, but it's best to keep it off if you're not needing it at that time. The anomaly score is set to 5. Now this number determines what's actually going to get blocked. So every triggered detection is going to raise that anomaly score. And the total score for that request, if it hits or exceeds that anomaly score, the traffic will be blocked. So 5 as an anomaly score, probably a bit low, but for this demo, we wanted to make sure that we were blocking requests. So that's why it's at that level. By default, it's 100, and it could be set as high as 10,000, which will really prevent traffic from being blocked at that number. I want to talk about the paranoia level in just a minute, but below that, here we have the rules that are being looked at. Scroll down, you have custom rules here that can be seen, as well as some workload-specific rules as well. Hourly alert threshold, this is tied to some syslogging that we can do on the LoadMaster. And here we also have the ability to enable that IP reputation blocking I mentioned before. Now, under advanced settings, I want to highlight that paranoia level. So there's an option between 1 and 4. Now, 1's going to be the most common WAF rules that are included. And as you start moving the paranoia level up, more WAF rules are going to be included when inspecting the traffic. So you want to be careful when raising this, as you may see an increase in more false positives, more legitimate traffic being blocked because more of those rules are being applied to that traffic. Now, we also have this executing paranoia level. Now, this is going to allow you to raise the level to see what's going to happen if you do raise the actual paranoia level. And this isn't going to actually block the traffic by raising the executing paranoia level. Down here is where you can block an entire country from accessing the application. And then we'll look at how Loadmaster 360 can help identify these countries very clearly. So with that, let's jump into Loadmaster 360. Let me go ahead and select that Loadmaster, and then we'll select WAF Insights. So here we have the WAF dashboard, a bunch of different widgets highlighting things like the top 10 executed rules, top 10 block requests, top 10 blocked by URL, and then we have some summary widgets on the right-hand side here. Now I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom first, where we see this map of the different locations we're seeing block traffic from. So with this traffic generator, we were able to identify some external traffic, just even though that the application is just running internally. So here I see a summary. I can select a specific region to zoom in. So if I select here South America, as this loads up, I can see Colombia and Brazil. So we have some block traffic from those two countries. Now, if I'm not expecting traffic from these countries or from this area, I can simply jump back into the Loadmaster and just tick those boxes within that advanced WAF configuration to block that traffic from, even attempting to access the application. Now, going up to the false positives. Here we have all these false positives listed. We have about 13 of them here. If I select the WAF rule tuning, I can get more details on these. I'll select this one as an example, right? As we can see here with the details, it's flagged as a SQL injection based on the keyword alter or union. But as you start looking at the details, you can see that it has here 12 Union Street was found in the request, which I would say is probably a harmless action, right? If there was, if this happened to be some kind of a real estate site or something like that. And then based on that, right, we can identify this as safe traffic. Down below, I can create some custom rules, some exclusions that would allow this traffic to come through. Now, first off, I can disable the rule altogether on the site. Now, I probably don't want to do that, right, in the event that there actually was some kind of a SQL injection attack. I have some other options here, so I'll go down to the last one, which provides me a more detailed rule, which will allow this traffic, if this rule is hit on this page and is found within that parameter argsq. Now, there's some other options in between that could be used depending on what you actually want to allow. So now, all I'd have to do is I can copy this to the clipboard. I can go back to the Loadmaster, and I go ahead and create a custom rule to allow this traffic to pass through the WAF. So this is just a quick overview of WAF for those looking to enable some level of security to help protect the applications being published, and then getting these kind of insights to get a better sense of the health of the application from this type of vantage point of view. Okay, moving on to network performance monitoring. So first I want to cover what's available out of the box with WhatsUp Gold Network Traffic Analysis Plus, or NTA Plus. So NTA Plus is a collector that'll work with your existing network devices. So your routers, your firewalls, your switches can send flow data using NetFlow or SFlow to NTA Plus, where it can be analyzed to help identify network performance issues. Right, and once again, many customers on the call today, depending on your subscription, could have this available, and it's just a matter of getting it spun up. And if you're running in a hybrid cloud or multi-cloud environment, you can get visibility into those networks as well. As part of the demo, we're going to look at how NTA Plus can help identify bandwidth hogs, right, to help address performance issues due to these type of anomalies on the network. So again, in this demo, we're going to focus primarily on WhatsUp Gold and how NTA Plus helps identify performance issues in the environment. Okay, here we are back in WhatsUp Gold. And in these later versions, you'll find a new navigational item for NTA Plus up here. Clicking into this, we can see a dashboard with some data being fed into it by the NTA Plus appliance. Now, the NTA Plus appliance is a standalone virtual collector, and some integration has been developed to visualize these flows, so you don't need to go into the NTA collector every time. Again, just if you want to have a peek on things. So here we see things like traffic, we see flows, we see packets, and based on the data that's being captured, if we look back at the traffic report here, we see a few spikes that we might want to investigate. So with that, we'll launch into the NTA Plus appliance so we can gather some more detailed information about this anomaly. So alongside the alerting that we talked about in WhatsUp Gold, there's some alerting in NTA Plus to inform us about these type of events, in this case via email, with a link included to the WhatsUp Gold NTA Plus user interface. So this email would have been, of course, what brought this to our attention in the first place. But now once we're in here, we could simply select that spike, right-click, and select Top 10 Statistics by Conversations, IP to IP. And this will process. And straight away, we see there's a clear bandwidth hog, right, according to this pie graph. And if you look down below in the table, we see that the IP address is 192.168.70.80, which is accessing a Google server and transferring 1.32 gigabytes of traffic. Now, if we go back up and we just take a look at that other spike that we saw, we'll run the same analysis, and we see it's the same user accessing the same system. So now we just need to find the system, we'll contact the owner, and find out exactly what's going on. Now, this is just one of many, many examples of using NTA Plus here. Now, if you're interested, right, we did a webinar just focused on NTA Plus back in January, which is published on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see some more use cases, I suggest you check that out. But once again, it's really about having the right set of tools to help identify these kind of anomalies quickly, right? It's going to make a world of difference within your organizations. Now, if we take NTA Plus and we add LoadMaster, we can get deeper insights into the performance of traffic accessing the applications through that LoadMaster. So LoadMaster has a built-in network telemetry, right, which is it's a probe that sends flow data to a collector, in this example, NTA Plus. This enriched flow data includes metrics such as round trip time, server response time, which can really help to identify where performance issues are happening. Right, so this is going to be the last scenario, which will show, working in NTA Plus, how you can see these additional data points to identify application performance issues by using the network telemetry on LoadMaster. Okay, starting off on my LoadMaster here, that's publishing a website running on Apache. So if I select network telemetry, you can see I just need to enter the IP address of the WhatsUp Gold NTA Plus collector. I'm going to use IPFix as the export protocol, and I've selected all the layer 2, 3, 4, and 7 protocols. And I also activated it on my interface 0. And that's really all I need to do, right? Shortly after that, you'll see the LoadMaster come up as a source in the NTA Plus collector, and flows will start populating. So going back to what I mentioned earlier about getting that dreaded call, right, that the application is slow, right, and how we're able to identify the problem on that system due to the high CPU. And we can clearly identify that problem with network telemetry as well here. But what if the problem is on the client side, right? We're not monitoring every client out there to identify, CPU or memory issues, right? But with network telemetry and NTA Plus, it's really not a problem. So first, we're going to set up alerts about any high round trip time above 100 milliseconds. And we see here that there's a situation where we're seeing 185 milliseconds round trip via an alert we received. Now, going into the NTA Plus analysis and selecting our LoadMaster as a source, we can see there's some additional information around round trip time and server response time. And I see a spike indicated in light green here, kind of at the edge. It's hard to see. But like before, right, I'll select that time period. But now I'm going to go down and select sort by maximum round trip time, right, and process. And again, right, clearly it's communication between client 201 and the LoadMaster. Right, other clients and backend servers are all well below 1 millisecond. So I think it's safe to say that this client is having some kind of an issue. It's either related, maybe it's a network related issue or something on their system that's causing some massive delays. Now, when that call comes in, right, you're more than equipped to handle the situation. You know where to look. Instead of trying to look at the backend systems or look at the load balancer, it's obviously something to do with that client itself. So again, tons of value. Just one example of using network telemetry on LoadMaster and NTA Plus with WhatsUp Gold. Well, that wraps up the demos. So I hope there wasn't too much bouncing around as I tried to connect the dots the best I could, simulating some of these use cases, right, to provide that holistic view across LoadMaster and LoadMaster 360, WhatsUp Gold, and NTA Plus. So as I mentioned at the start, right, I hope that came across. So with that, I think we could jump into Q&A to see if we have any questions.